Firstly, we'll go through a brief overview about what modules are. This session is intended just to be a brief overview of how different modules are implemented and how they change what can and can't be accessed or seen within FinPower Connect. We've saved a few images as resources for the purposes of this presentation to save time, but to still give a quick visual of what we are referring to. Modules are extras to the base FinPower Connect system, as I'm sure many of you know, that can be purchased or added on when the functionality they encompass is required by the client. This means that with certain modules, there are added mechanisms or areas you wouldn't otherwise be able to see, use, or access. A good example of this is the Securities Register and its add-ons. A license without this means that the entire security menu is no longer visible, as you can see in this image, compared with the database we're in now, which is fully licensed for all modules. The security menu no longer appears between the account and transaction menus. You can view which modules your client currently has by going to the Help menu and going to License Information. To access this option, you do need to have all other windows closed first. If an additional module is required, you can arrange getting an updated license from us by contacting Joe Coles or by completing the update via your My Intersoft account. Using the dealer tools, this will give you a code which can be entered via the license menu to update everything. Once a module has been added to the client's license, certain modules can be initialized at any stage using the new company wizard. This is available in global settings on the database page and can be run at any time. This process, where applicable, will create sample items and add dependent items related to this module. You can see from this page here that initializing the loans module will go ahead and create some elements required for loan account types. This is to ensure that any mandatory items are defined on the account type in the correct locations and available for further customization. Many modules and their components are so large that they warrant their own topic, and a more in-depth session is likely to be run down the track for these. Examples of this include cost centres, comprehensive credit reporting, revolving credit loan accounts, etc. Another really important thing to note is that FinPower Connect is organised around some basic structures. These work together and allow multiple levels of grouping for accounts and clients. Modules are a way of taking these structures a bit further to meet the overall needs of the client's business model for better organisation, filtering, and ease of access for information required for reporting. An excellent example of that is cost centres. The highest level of organisation is the entity. This chart here shows a quick glance of the overall base structure. In order to link all these items in FinPower Connect, there are mandatory fields that will force the user to define the required item. These fields are represented in yellow while in edit mode, and an error will be generated when the user tries to save the form without selecting the required option. In addition, when not licensed for branches, entities, or cost centres, a client will still always have one entity, one branch, and one global cost centre for system configuration purposes. For now, we're going to go through an overview of each module in order of their overall grouping shown on the license form. Starting with the account type modules. You must be licensed for at least one account type module in order to use FinPower Connect. Account types are a core part of the FinPower Connect, a core part of FinPower Connect as a whole. The different types are represented on the account type form by the account class, which is here. The available types each have their own features and benefits, which will be covered in more depth in another session. There are the following module types: deposit accounts, which support both on-call and term investments; fixed term loan accounts, which is term-based loan accounts with a fixed rate; fixed term floating rate accounts, often thought of as more of a home loan type product, allowing for floating rate loan accounts; and revolving credit loan accounts. which is flexible line of credit style accounts with a variety of inbuilt functions. The last account class that you can see here of disbursements is actually part of the advanced external parties module, which we will cover in due course. It is also important to note that the maximum open accounts on the license is across all account types. Account add-ons. Accounting ledgers. This adds functionality for amortizing revenue and expense items against accounts. Once licensed, the accounting ledgers can be added and configured via the account form as shown here. There are a number of options available, and that will be its own session as well. Advanced banking. This one's also quite a large one. It supports cash registers and the automatic creation of direct debit and credit card banking transactions and exporting of these to banking interfaces. The example shown here is the Process Direct Debit Payments Wizard, which becomes available with this module along with many other additions. Promotions. This adds functionality to override the normal account characteristics optionally, restricting to certain dealers and or timeframes. This functionality appears on the account type form here under promotions. And this is an example showing an interest-free promotion. Account applications. This adds functionality for account applications, which allows you to completely assess a loan application, ring-fencing it, and allowing a focus on the application approval process in a dedicated area of FinPower Connect, being the application menu. From here, the user can launch credit inquiries on an applicant and much, much more. Moving on to client add-ons. Advanced clients includes additional client functionality such as the also known as field, the employment details for individuals or personnel for organisation, and identification details. Client statistics adds this page here, which allows you to view and add statistics such as income, expenses, assets and liabilities for loan affordability calculations. You can view the statistics on the client record, and an admin library is added for further customization. Bank account inquiries. This adds integrated facilities to perform and record bank account inquiries. This service will appear in the cost center for configuration of the credentials and additional options, and the bank account inquiry wizard shown here will be added. This is available from the client menu, or as an action from the client form or an account application. And a copy of the report is saved against a client log. Here's an example. Nope, that's the credit inquiry one, Caroline. Yeah. In Australia and New Zealand, just as a side note, the Alien Bank Statement Service does not require this add-on. Credit inquiries. This one is very similar. It adds integrated facilities to perform and record credit inquiries and load credit bureau defaults. Credit inquiries are available also from the client menu or as an action from the client form, similar to the bank account inquiries as previously mentioned. This report, which I accidentally previewed before, also saves against the client log. Now the credit bureau defaults have some configuration settings in global settings, and the bulk credit bureau defaults wizard is available from the process menu. I do need to note that this wizard can only be used in New Zealand, and in Australia the defaults are amalgamated with the CCR files for the loading part of the process. The individual defaults can be viewed and loaded from the account form as well. Again, the loading in New Zealand doesn't take place here, in Australia. In Australia, the ABN service does not require this add-on, and in New Zealand, the Centrix, New Zealand Companies Office and NZ Government Services also do not require this add-on. Comprehensive credit reporting. This module adds support for exporting consumer comprehensive credit reporting or CCR files. Commercial is different, but we'll go over that in another session. For use in Australia and New Zealand with selected credit bureaus, there is a comprehensive configuration guide available for this module. Once added and properly configured, the options appear in the process menu in order to generate the export. You'll also be able to see the individual monthly history ratings just here on the account. Addressing. The addressing module adds functionality to validate address, suburb, city, and postcode information. This also has a sub-add-on called Full Verification, which is New Zealand only, and adds functionality to validate full address details. Moving on to the external party add-ons. External parties adds the ability to include dealers, brokers, insurers, and other external party types. An admin library is also added to aid in the management of these records. Advanced external parties adds functionality for disbursements, dealer commissions, and business development managers. So there's the approved disbursement wizard, and disbursements can be added on the account form here. Again, that's quite a big topic that will be covered in a lot more depth at a later date. Securitization. This adds functionality to handle the securitization of loans and includes the bulk funder external party type. This module is typically highly customized with scripting based on the client's individual requirements. External users. This allows remote access by external party users. One example of where this appears in FinPower Connect is shown here under Admin, Users and Responsibilities. The Securities Register. This adds functionality to record collateral secured over a loan by way of the security statement form. These can be linked to both accounts and clients and have individual items saved against them. The PPSR interface. This allows access to the government PPSR internet service to register, discharge, etc. of financing statements. In New Zealand, there is the normal PPSR interface, and for use in Australia, the PPSR B2G, which looks slightly different to the form shown here. This is New Zealand. Next, the security inquiry adds functionality to be able to retrieve reports on securities, for example, a vehicle check. Moving on to our general add-ons, we've got the accounting interface, which includes functionality to export the general ledger information to a variety of external accounting softwares. It does this by either generating files or via API, but if your client is using Empower, this module is not required. GL accounts are able to be configured and then defined where required, like this example here on the account type. We've got our control account and our clearing account defined here. Branches. This module allows multiple branches to be tracked within FinPower Connect. Branches has a couple of sub-add-ons, meaning that branches is a prerequisite for them. These are cost centres and entities. Cost centres adds functionality to analyse costs by cost centre. This hierarchy system allows for the correct cost centre to be charged for things like credit inquiries. More information on the hierarchy is available in Help. It's quite a comprehensive page. And as previously mentioned, every client will have at least one cost centre, being the global cost centre. This is now where the majority of credentials and settings for integrations with third parties are stored. What is displayed on this form, of course, is determined by your license and which country your database is set to. Entities. This allows multiple legal entities to be tracked within FinPower Connect. In terms of hierarchy, entity is the highest here, followed by branch, with the ability to have multiple branches under the one entity and in turn multiple cost centres. There is also the ability to have different general ledger settings to keep GL exports separated by legal entity. You can also choose whether to restrict certain account types for that entity and much more. Entities are also linked to bank accounts, branches, etc. as shown in the chart earlier and seen here on the form now. See here we've got an entity and a cost centre attached to that branch, etc. The document manager. This adds functionality to view documents and other files for accounts, clients, security statements, and users. Additional information can optionally be stored against each file. You can drill down into the record and open the file from FinPower Connect, and you can preview some file types within FinPower Connect itself. For example, JPEGs, but not yet PDFs. Electronic signatures. This adds functionality to interface with electronic signature services. Currently, the supported providers are Adobe Sign, Secured Signing, and DocuSign. There are existing bookmarks that can be added to documents to utilize this functionality, and sample documents provided with constants as an example of what can be used. This here is the LCFT sample, showing some of the constants set in here. Page sets. This adds functionality to use and design page sets. Page sets allow custom forms to be used within the FinPower Connect Windows user interface. We do need to note that these are not transferable to FinPower Connect Cloud. Again, this is one of those highly customized areas as well that would probably require its own session. Portals. A relatively new module, this adds functionality to use and design portals. This can, as an example, be used to allow borrowers or investors to log on and be able to check their account balances, send messages to the lenders, and more. Portals allow custom web applications to be used in the FinPower Connect Windows user interface and also via web services. There is a guide available for the ins and outs of this and the sample portal provided and shown here. And to utilize the full functionality, web services and automation is a prerequisite for this module. Moving on to rate tables, this adds functionality to create rate tables to use in interest calculations. This applies to fixed-term floating rate loan accounts, revolving credit loan accounts, and deposit accounts. Messaging. This adds facilities to send SMS messages within FinPower Connect. Now there are a new and old interface available, the old being obsoleted eventually. There is more functionality available with the new messaging interface, including webhook replies. To turn the new interface on and off, you go to Global Settings, down to Messaging, and tick or untick that Use New Messaging Interface checkbox. Using the new interface, all the credentials have been shifted to the cost centre, along with all the additional options here. The advanced messaging module actually only adds additional messaging services, for example, Twilio, which is available for use in Australia. Web services and automation. This allows the FinPower Connect business layer to be used by the web services and custom applications running on a Microsoft IIS web server. This module is a prerequisite, as previously mentioned, for portals, but also for FinPower Connect Cloud. FinPower Connect Cloud. This module allows the use of FinPower Connect Cloud for the cloud environment, obviously, but full configuration settings become available in FinPower Connect via the Tools Web FinPower Connect Cloud configuration form. This also allows, in addition, for some of the forms within FinPower to be overridden with widgets using these checkboxes. Workflows. This adds functionality to use workflows. An admin library of workflow types is added to aid in the customization of these workflows. Workflows can be attached to client, account, and application records and are full of functionality and will be reviewed in more depth at a later session. Shown here is the workflow type for the sample overdue workflow. And lastly, we have the Enterprise Edition. The Enterprise Edition of FinPower Connect includes support for Microsoft SQL Server databases. Without this, you're only able to attach or use a Microsoft Access database. This is not recommended for any clients that will have databases with large sizes or anything over 2 gigabytes. SQL in general performs better and is more reliable than an Access database. More information is available on our website as shown here, including SQL Server guides and minimum system requirements. So thanks everyone. We've come to the end of our module session now. I hope you've learned at least one thing you didn't know before or that the session has created some questions.